Hello cuties and welcome back to Great or Bait, the fruitiest series on YouTube. Once again, I am completely out of adjectives to make the series sound goofy at the beginning, so if you have any, feel free to shoot them. But anyway, today we're doing two somewhat similar cars, but not exactly, as you'll see later on the video. The theme is the S1 Meta, I suppose. We're doing XJR and Viper AE, as you can probably tell by the title. Once again, very good cars. I had no question about that. Also very fun to drive and use, and I'm quite excited to share the results, I suppose. So I'm gonna try and not waste any more time, and I'll jump straight into the first one, which I chose to be the Viper AE. Now, when this car came out about 2 years ago, it became instantly meta for handling in S1, and that's because it has a absolutely ridiculous amount of downforce, which I will showcase a little bit later. But in terms of drifting, it is alright, is all I'm gonna say. There are a couple of flaws to it, mainly the fact that it has ridiculously wide tires, and that means it's gonna have a lot of grip, which prevents it from sliding as much as I would have wanted to. It also makes it very hard to do a tail snap at the end. It is still fun because it's challenging as opposed to most cars, which kind of slide once you make a build for them. This one is a little bit like, bro, what do you want me to slide? Just put me on a fucking track. It's kind of like how this car feels, but it's still alright. So I believe it did a 143.4, which you'll see now. I'm giving it only a 6.5 out of 10, and I will explain that in the next video. But yeah, I basically toned down the drift grades by like a point or a point and a half. Because I realized I got better at testing cars, so yeah. Anyway, the Viper is not particularly fast. It is just slightly above the average, which makes sense because it has a ton of natural grip, not the most amount of power. Like, there are cars with more, so yeah, only a 5.5. In terms of acceleration, it's even worse. I don't think Travis had a wonderful time with this. However, I will say the launch is pretty decent. As you can tell, it reaches like 70-80 miles an hour pretty much instantly, but after that it dies. It just goes to a hospital in a coma, which is pretty sad, but it's all I can give it, really. Mid 13 seconds, yeah. Okay, well, here it is, the grip test, and obviously it's where it's going to shine the most. Or is it? Anyway, yeah, it is fucking fantastic. This is only the 6th lap here, and I already had a lap that I was somewhat satisfied with, I could say. It takes these corners like an absolute champ. Now, I will point out the fact that I built this tune myself, and I think I omitted something rather important, which is the rear bumper. I think most builds use that. I'm not sure why. I went into build a car, and I noticed that the bumper doesn't really do anything besides maybe add weight. It didn't really seem like it would help the car much, and I decided to not use it. But then I realized a lot of tunes use that, so I think I may have made a little bit of a mistake. Again, I'm really not sure about that, but yeah, I guess it didn't really impact the rating. Oh yeah, also there I did a little bit of a swoosh, a little bit of a fresh cut to the car, but now we're gonna ignore that. So yeah, otherwise, as you can tell by the top left corner, it did a 41.029 in I think it was a flagged lap. So, but thankfully it did a sub 41 here, and that was super clean. So yeah, 9 out of 10, pretty easy, very solid car. I don't know why I started the lap as early as I did here, but I guess I'm gonna show. Oh yeah, I wanted to showcase just how fast it takes this last corner here, and yeah, man, it's so good off-road. You may not believe this, but I did give it a higher rating for off-road than I did for road, just because this car has the entire package, but mainly it has the same grip as a CLK in my opinion. Only I guess it has I don't know, it weighs a little bit more, I guess. I'm not sure why it's you know, not better than the CLK. On paper it should be. Oh, well, I guess I can tell it's because the suspension is just not very built for this type of thing, but it can take the same extensions as the CLK. It is insanely grippy. Acceleration on the lower end is pretty good. Suspension is alright, I guess, and this lap here was pretty decent, so there you go, 9.5 out of 10. If you're wondering what the result is, you can see it right now on the sheet. For 56.3, insanely strong. So yeah, in total it got a 34.5 out of 50, aka a 6.9 out of 10. Very nice. And like I said, this car is very strong overall. It's just not very fast, as you can tell. It's one of those cars that has a lot of grip and not a lot of power and aero coefficient, and as a result it hurts on those two categories right there and does very well on the others. Yeah, and unfortunately it's these cars that are this strong but not you know, the meta cars that don't actually get into the 40 out of 50s here. But let's move on to one that might get there. We don't know. Well, I do, but anyway, that's the Jaguar XJR. And before testing this car, I knew it would be very good, just because it has the absolutely, you know, damned recipe of being a meta car, first of all. Second of all, being incredibly light. Third of all, being very powerful. Fourth of all, I guess, having a busted aero coefficient. And it did prove that. It definitely did prove that. It's not great for drifting, I'll be honest. It feels like a boat, even though, you know, everything is there. The entire recipe is there. It still feels kind of like a boat. And tail snaps are, yeah, they're not the most pleasant to do. But it's still good. It's still good. It's definitely not a bad car by any means. It's just a little bit worse than I expected it to be. Which is not to say, again, that it's bad. It's definitely not. It will take you a little bit to learn how to use it. But I think this run here was pretty decent, except for this part here at the end. Tail snap was also somewhat decent. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for 143.7. Not too bad at all. Here's where it gets good. So, yeah, here's where it gets good. So obviously this is a very fast car, and it showed. So I got a 463 here. I tried going back and get a 464. I couldn't, so we'll just leave it at that. 8 out of 10, very strong. We got Travis here again testing the acceleration, and it is good. It's got pretty decent launch, and unlike most cars that we get to test on this channel, it actually has very solid top end. As you can see here, it does not stop after the 200s. So yeah, that warranted a very solid 7.5 for getting a, I believe, 12.4, right? Yep, precisely. And well, in terms of grip, I already knew it was going to be good, just because, again, the formula: low weight, high power, and goofy good tires, and being meta. Obviously this is power build meta in S1, so it was not going to get its grade boosted because it's like not grip meta or anything like that, but it was gonna be good just knowing it's already meta and in rivals. And yeah, I was not wrong about that. The only problem with this, obviously, is that it's a pretty old car, and even on slicks it still feels understeery. And also I think I went for the Racing V12 engine, which I believe is going to almost always be the best option for this track, as opposed to the V8. And I got pretty good. I think I can pull another half a second from the car for sure, if I keep trying, but I would not change the grade. It is not as good as some of the off metas that I tested, you know, in previous videos. It's not that good, but it's still very solid. I believe I got a 42.8 in this lap, and it wasn't a great lap by any means. It was just an alright, satisfying lap. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10. I think it suits this car very well. And finally we got off-road, and I am happy to say this is this car's best result, I suppose. Kind of like the Viper as well, which is kind of weird because again, this is S1 road meta, and you would expect them to do best in the grip test, but no, they did best in the off-road test. That's kind of wild. But this car is basically a grippier version of the Diablo that I tested ages ago, or I guess I don't know what to compare it to. It's a glass cannon. It has decent grip but all the acceleration in the fucking world. It's a crazy combination. I guess it's like a yes coat that has significantly more grip and a bit more control. That's kind of the way I would put it, because it's very light, it's got a lot of power. Fenrir did an amazing job with this tune, thank you very much, by the way. And I'm gonna slow it down here just so you can tell, but it is at exactly 57.8. I calculated it later, which warrants it a super solid 9 out of 10. So there it is. Wow, it barely fits on the fucking screen. It got an incredibly clean looking 40 out of 50 for an average of 8 out of 10. I was expecting that, I'll be honest. I thought it would scrape the 40s, maybe even get into the 41, 42s. And I think it would have if I kept the old drift pointing system, where I would probably give this like an 8.5 out of 10 or something like that, which I don't anymore. I reevaluated that. But yeah, fantastic car, absolutely. I love testing this on all parameters, and I can't wait to test the next one. Sorry, the next episode, I suppose. But yeah, thank you for the suggestion, and I'll see you in the next one.